أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. What's riba or interest? Its types, why it was prohibited, and who allowed to get it in Islam. Briefly, riba is the ninth greater sin, which is defined as the additional amount of money or other items paid back to the lending institution, bank person, or addition to the principal amount got as loan or borrowed amount. So let's assume someone borrows you like 10,000 and puts the string attached that while paying back, you understand, the principal amount, you should add on an extra amount. You are given 10,000 and he makes you to add like 2,000. You understand? That $2,000 will be considered to be riba and is considered in Islam to be a greater sin, the ninth greater sin. Some of the types of riba, we have two types of riba. Number one, al-hukumi. You understand? Assume you borrow me $10,000 and you put a condition that in addition to the money to be paid back, I should wash your vehicle. This transaction shall be treated as riba or asari. Type number two, aziyadatu. You understand? Or increment. An example, you borrow me like $10,000 or 10 kilograms of beans and you want 12 aziyadatu. Type number two of riba is called aziyadatu. Give an example, you borrow me like $10,000 and you want like $12,000. The 2,000 extra amount is considered to be riba. Or like you borrow me 10 kilograms of beans and upon me paying you back, you need an extra 2 kg. That 2 kg will be considered to be riba, my respected brother and sister. The Quranic ruling on riba or interest, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it clear in Quranic chapter 3, verse number 130 to 131. He said that, Ya ayyuhalladhina aman la ta'akulu riba. You understand? He made it clear that don't devour yourself into riba. Do not devour asari, making it double and redouble, and be careful of your duty to Allah that you may be successful. Wattaqullah allati u'iddat lil kafirin, and guard yourselves against the fire which has been prepared for the unbelievers. Therefore, this means that the fury of the fire that is prepared for those who take interest will be just as intense as the fire prepared for the unbelievers. Among the punishments for riba takers, those who swallow down asari or riba cannot arise, cannot develop, and they will be like one whom shaitan has prostrated by his touch does rise. You understand? This is because they say trading is only like asari, and Allah has allowed trading and forbidden riba. Therefore, whenever you engage yourself into riba, you will never develop and Allah will never bless your business. Among the effects of riba, this is a direct ill effect of interest are clear. You understand? The direct ill effects of riba are clear and evident. For instance, hoarding of wealth increases the disparity between the rich and the poor. Therefore, you find that money will be only in the hands of those rich ones, which may cause or widen the gap between the rich and the poor. Poverty can degrade and humiliate its victims. Therefore, whenever you like put conditions that I borrow this amount and you should like upon paying back put on additional amount to the principal, you will be like depriving these poor people who also want to develop in real life. Something which in turn leads to corruption, theft, and murder, because this person will not find any path, any way, any route to be assisted. Therefore, you find that you will be the reason to cause him to engage into corruption, theft, among other evil actions. This in turn leads to corruption, as I said, theft and murder. Those directly responsible for destroying the social equilibrium are the hoarders of wealth. You hoard your money because you always attach conditions attached to so. The Western aid or loans and poor African countries with their corrupt leaders. Westerners and their inhuman strategic plans extend loans to poor African countries and others. But why? But their intention isn't to help them, rather to keep them in vicious cycles of poverty, which implies even stealing their natural resources when they fail to pay back. You find that these Western countries, US, UK, among other countries, they ally with these poor African leaders. Some of them, the corrupt, evil creatures, and they extend them those conditional loans. And when these African countries fails to pay, they take their assets. For instance, they have taken their airports, they have taken their highlands, among other among some good other institutions, which makes these countries to stay poor per annum. Actually, Ribah is also against intellect and affects our businesses. For instance, in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 276, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Yamhaqullahu riba. You understand? Wa yuribi sadaqat wallahu la yuhibbu kulla kaffarin athim. Allah does not bless asari or riba business, and He causes charitable deeds to prosper. And Allah does not love any ungrateful sinner. Therefore, you find that whenever you get money and you engage yourself you get money with riba and you use that same money to start up any small business, Allah will never bless that business, because the capital was haram. It had that hand over riba, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbid in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 275. There is also this question: do Islamic banks charge riba or interest? You understand? To answer it briefly, when you process for any loan in Islamic banks, they explain to you the percentage you will pay. And this is not treated as riba or interest, no, but is called haqqu zahama, like charge for meeting up the costs of processing your loan, e.g., paying off the workers in accounts and others. This is totally different from non-Islamic banks, who even advertise their interest rates, and even the poor ones without choice fall into their traps, since their securities will be taken by the banks. There is also this question that at times my bank pays me some money on my account, yet I never got any loan. That's not treated as riba, no, because banks also uses your deposits at your accounts for its purposes. Therefore, I find that whenever you go and deposit your money into those banks, savings account, fixed accounts, the money stays in bank. And among the assets, you understand, of the banks are these deposits, which they pay off to people in form of loans. Therefore, when those people who aboard that money pays back to the bank also gives you something like gift. Therefore, that additional amount which is credited on your account in banks will not be considered as riba, my dear brother or sister, but it will rather be treated as a gift given to you by the bank. There's this question that what if Ibra borrows me $10,000 and I return $12,000, but during that time when he gave me that money, he never mentioned anything like interest? How does Islam treat that? Islam has allowed this, and it will be treated as hadiyah, or a gift you give him for using his money. You understand? It's just something like kind of appreciation. You understand? But remember, when Ibra was borrowing you that money, you should note that he never put any string attached, that maybe you should give me something like kind of hadiyah. In case he puts that string attached will be considered as riba, my great brother or sister. What are some of the caste people in riba or interest transactions? At-Tamhidiyya fi Fiqh al-Istidlali, volume 18, page number 127, hadith number 1. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the glorified, has cast the receiver of riba, its giver, its recorder, and its witness. And if Allah curses you, automatically you will be a friend of Satan in the hellfire, unless if you ask for sincere repentance. That's when Allah can even change your ugly sins into good ones, as we saw in Quran chapter 25, verse number 70 to 72. Another question is that who can charge Ribah? You understand? Who can charge Ribah? Kindly quote the following. Number 1, the father and the son. Walid wa walidihi. The father and son can enter into a transaction of interest or Ribah. But a transaction of interest between mother and son is haram. You understand? I repeat, father and son, walidi wa walidihi. The father and the son can enter into a transaction of interest or Ribah. But a transaction of interest between mom and between mom, you understand, and her son is haram. Number 2, husband and wife. The husband and wife can charge interest from each other. There is no problem. For example, one of them gives 100 maybe rupees, you understand, and demand 150 rupees. For instance, one gives 100 rupees and demand 150 rupees. In return, it is permitted, my dear brother or sister. Number 3, the kafir, al-harabi, the enemy of Islam, and even fights Muslims. You understand? Who is not staying in an Islamic country. A Muslim can take back more. Therefore, a Muslim can charge this enemy of Islam. I mean, this Harabi is someone who fights Islam. I don't mean all Ahlul Kitab. You understand? The Christians or Christians, no. Some Christians love Islam and they don't fight it. But someone who fights an open enemy of Islam, a Muslim can charge him interest. There is no problem, my brother or sister. That's the kafir al-harb, whom are meaning al-harabi, the enemy of Islam, and even fights Muslims. Who is not staying in an Islamic country. A Muslim can take back her more, but he cannot give him more. Therefore, a Muslim cannot give that enemy of Islam more, but a Muslim can take more from him in form of riba. There is no problem. As far as the zimmi kafir, one who is staying in an Islamic country, is considered it is haram to enter into a transaction of interest with him. Let's assume this, like Ahl Kitab is staying in your country, for instance, Iran is an Islamic country and there are some Ahl Kitab staying there. You cannot charge them interest. That's totally prohibited in Islam, my dear brother or sister, and that transaction will be considered to be haram, to enter into a transaction of interest with him. Taking and giving of interest both are haram in this case. The transaction between a Muslim and Ahl Kitab living in Islamic country is totally prohibited. Kindly quote this. Riba or interest between father and son, husband and wife is allowed because the man remains into your family. Then the kafir, one who fights Muslims, al-harabi, you understand, Muslims can take riba from him or from them because he fights Muslims, and if he grows weak, he can't fight Muslims back. Even if someone is a Muslim and fanatic harabi that he fights fellow Muslims, a Muslim can take riba from him because he's an enemy to himself and Islam too. A Christian or other non-Muslim who can't fight Islam and Muslims, you can't get riba from him because in time can join Islam, and that's one of the strategic of inviting them to Islam. When can a Muslim go for riba loan? When can a Muslim go for riba loan? Assume you have a necessity and you are under your last resort, like meeting medical bills, food, fees, and you have tried your Muslim brothers and failed to secure a free interest loan. Here, Islam only permits you to borrow only that amount which is equivalent to your need, as it allows you to consume only that little portion from pork to save your life, my respected brother and sister, under necessity. There's also this question that what about dowry or mahari, you understand, for marriage with riba money. Let's assume you pay your wife, you go to bank, get a loan with interest, and you pay that interest loan, you understand, as mahari to your wife. Does Islam permit that? The dowry for marriage with riba, does Islam permit that? I told you that we have a sin. We have sin in Quran chapter 2, 275, Allah referring to riba to be satanic action. Therefore, you can't start your family with haram money because marriage is optional, not wajib. And if you force it, Satan promised to have a hand in your offsprings and also in your business, as he had in those who usurped the right of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam, as we say in Sahih Muslim volume 2, page number 238. Starting your marriage with dowry, you understand, which is of riba money. We told you that in Quran chapter 17 verse number 64, Surah Al-Isra, Shaitan himself promises that washarikuhum fil amwali wal awlad. You understand that if you force and start your marriage with any haram money, Shaitan himself promises to have a share with them in their wealth and children. Therefore, that man will be of satanic, and also your children will have a hand of Satan, whereby you will end up giving rise to evil offsprings, my dear respected brother and sister. Therefore, that's a simple lecture in regards to riba. We said it is in two types here. Al-Hukmi, whereby you give me your money, like 10,000, and in addition to that, you say that when you paying back, I should you put a condition like washing your vehicle. Then number two, aziyada. You understand? For instance, you borrow me 10,000 and you want 12,000, or you borrow me 10 kilograms of beans and you want 12 kilograms of beans, my respected brother and sister. That money will be considered to be riba. Among the effects, we said it causes that wide gap between the rich and the poor. You make this someone to enter into evil action is this someone who cannot access those loans without riba, my brother or sister, which can cause evil actions in community. We also said that in Surah Al-Imran verse number 130 to 131, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala openly prohibited the taking of riba. The punishments for riba, we said that any business cannot prosper with riba in Surah Al-Baqarah verse number 275. And we also said that the Western aid loans and poor African countries with their corrupt leaders makes these poor countries to lose their assets because they fail to pay them back. We also said that any business with loan money cannot prosper. Allah will never bless it. Yamhaqu Allahu riba wa yuribi. You understand? Wa yuribi sadaqat. Wallahu la yuhibbu kulla kafarin athim. Allah does not bless asari. You understand? Any business with asari or riba, and he causes charitable deeds to prosper. And we also said that this case of Islamic banks, you understand, they don't charge interest. Rather, that's considered to be haqquzahama. You understand? Like the charge for meeting up the cost of processing your loan. Therefore, that one will not be considered as a riba, my respected brother and sister. We also said that among the caste people in riba transaction includes the receiver, includes the giver, the recorder, the witness, and the receiver. We saw that in At-Tamhidiyati fi Fiqh al-Istidlali, volume 18, page number 127, hadith number 1. We also say that one who can charge riba or interest includes father and son, walid wa walidihi. You understand, my respected brother and sister? We also say that husband and wife, but the husband and wife can charge interest from each other. For example, one of them gives 100 rupees and demand 150 rupees in return. But we said that even though father and son can take riba here, but a transaction between a mother and son is haram in regards to riba. We also said that the kafir al-harabi, the enemy of Islam, who even fights Muslims, you can charge him extra amount, but for him, that enemy of Islam is not allowed to charge you extra amount when he gives you riba, and this is only done in those countries. We also said that riba or interest between father and son, husband and wife is allowed because the money remains into your family. Then the kafir who fights Muslims, Muslims can take riba from him because he fights Muslims, and even he grows weak, he can't fight. And when he grows weak, he can't fight Muslims back. My respected brother and sister. We also said that when can a Muslim go for riba? And the last resort, when he has tried getting free interest loan from his Muslim brothers and failed, here is only allowed to go for only that money which meets his need, as Allah allowed the consumption of pork, only that portion, in order to save your life. Kindly share up to last person. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullah.